Hello and welcome back, everybody. And if you are new to my channel, welcome. You know, people who come back, they're my regulars, they get that a little bit special welcome because they are special to me. But of course, if you are new to my channel, you are always welcome too, friend. Today I'm watching the top 10 5 Warhammer 40k video games and media by Bricky, of course. Ever since I started watching his channel, YouTube has been recommending me this video, and I gotta say, I am very actually interested as to what are some of their really good Warhammer 40k video games. So you know what, without further ado, let's just jump into it and let Bricky bless us with his voice as sweet as honey and words straight out of the codex.
This video does not actually have a sponsor, but instead, it's just me shamelessly plugging my new merchandise site. It is no longer brickymerch.com. In fact, it is now orchid8.com, and we are launching...
I think this is not outdated, because this video came out a really long time ago, like 2 or 3 years. But I think Bricky still has that site, just the designs are probably a little bit outdated. But if you want to support Bricky, orchid8.com is the place you wanna go. And support he deserves, because he has some cool bootleg Warhammer 40k merch and because his content is fucking amazing.
The whole new site with a whole new look and some brand new products, specifically the B-Mote tee and hoodie. It's got the cute little D emote B on the front,
That's
both
so
in the shirt and hoodie form, but on the back, a big old checkerboard of all of the awesome emotes that we currently have on Twitch and hopefully coming soon to memberships on YouTube. Along with this, we got some restocks, a couple things that were out of stock before have now...
I don't like the back design, but the front is so goddamn cute.
Now been brought back in stock, and overall...
And yeah, this is very outdated merch. Bricky has a lot of different shirts now. I wonder if he still actually sells those.
Whole new site. It's looking a hell of a lot better. It's a lot easier to navigate, and so if you want to check that out, it's called orchid8.com. You can find in the description. And to launch the new site, the whole goddamn place is 10% off for the next week. So if you want to grab something, every single thing on there is 10%. Go ahead and snag it.
Okay, that discount is definitely off.
Hello everybody, my name is Bricky, currently running from the law for selling 2.4 terabytes of Commander Shadow Sun pornography, and today we are talking Warhammer, not the Warhammer I just explained, and not even the Warhammer but
hold on.
And today we are talking Warhammer, not the Warhammer.
Okay, those are some good ass fucking custom models that speak to my interest as a JoJo fan, because holy shit, that's some style and confidence in those poses. God damn.
I just explained, and not even the Warhammer on the tabletop, but in fact, Warhammer in media and video games. Two things that you generally don't see a whole lot of. Warhammer video games are not something I would call rare. Good Warhammer video games are more rare than a humble Craft Worlds player. Naturally, Warhammer games are really difficult to translate as video games from the universe. One, because of the insane varying levels of power. Like, how can a civilian take on a guardsman trained since birth, take on a space marine, take on a custodian, take on a tyrannid like tyrannocyte, or just a gigantic tyrannid monster?
Yeah, I reacted to Warhammer 40k Fire Warrior review by Mandalore Gaming, and a lot of people actually were pissed off that the protagonist is some Tau schmuck. Basically, just a normal Tau, I guess just a normal Tau? I don't know what the race is called Tau, right? But their faction is also called Tau, or is the race called something else? Because Tau accepts other races into their, thing, right? Those are questions, not statements. I might as well know fuck all about the Warhammer 40k universe. But to come back to the original thing, a lot of people under my reaction to that Fire Warrior review were really pissed off that a normal Tau dude is taking on Space Marines, Chaos Space Marines. I think there were some other chaos creatures in that game that he took on, and people were fucking pissed off that that one Tau dude is strong enough to go up against all of that. But I heard that there was some like accompaniment book or something like that that explained that that guy was getting really fucking corrupted by Khorne. Like, he was essentially also being empowered by chaos, from my limited understanding. And that's why he kinda went, you know, hard in the fucking paint. Like, his fellow Tau were getting really concerned in his presence. And I think that was like a little bit of an explanation of that. But honestly, like, I get it. It's important to the lore and the setting, but we can have a little bit of fun, right? Both the lore needs to be respected, obviously. If you're not gonna respect the Warhammer 40k lore, what the fuck you doing with that brand making a video game about it? That's obvious. But there also needs to be a fun factor, and they need to be like evenly balanced. So people should be able to go up against like different units and take them down. But at the same time, you know what? Maybe it's true. Like, a Chaos Space Marine shouldn't be a fucking common enemy when you're playing as just like a random Tau or a guardsman or something, you know? Because that is a little bit not accurate.
Which then takes on an Imperial Knight and an Emperor class Titan and a Tyranid Bio Titan, and then you get into the insane levels of the fleets and the naval battles, and it's just a whole new level.
But yeah, just like Bricky has explained, this is a problem for anybody who's going to be making a game in that universe.
Having that all come together and fight each other is already ridiculous enough, but then you can't do a whole lot with the narrative either, because having different influxes of character motivation doesn't really happen in Warhammer. Everyone is so devout to either their cause or they just aren't thinking, as in things like Tyranids and Orcs that have only a singular goal. But then you have the Imperium, and when you're in the Imperium, you can't go around being like, you know, maybe chaos ain't that bad. If you're not 100% Emperor's Graces, fully zealotous, then you get shot in the head. So having any kind of like fall from grace or character motivations where they kind of go against their government and the masses doesn't really happen. So naturally, unless you're doing
also true
some kind of like,
I never really considered that. Yeah, I guess that would make people afraid of putting like real story in Warhammer games. Yeah, last time we also reacted to Mandalore Gaming's review of Space Marine video game, and there is no story. You just kinda arrive on a planet, you fight orcs, then you fight chaos. And like, even the characters between, like during elevator fights between, you know, shooting, where you usually in a video game you get bits of story or some character interactions. Like, the characters would only talk about their goal. They would never talk about anything fucking else, and I think that was the developers being so afraid to put like any story or a character into those Space Marines, because they would be afraid of backlash, I guess. But surely there is some space for your own like little stories within this universe and characters within this universe.
Soldiers and brothers in arms story, or maybe like a detective story, i.e. Eisenhorn kind of books with the Inquisitor. It's kind of hard to make a lot of content for it. So through all
that happens. There are stories in that universe that can be like fun, you know. It's just slightly limited.
all that turmoil though, there are some pretty good ones, and that's what we're going to do today. We're going to kind of rank, but mainly just discuss the top 5 Warhammer video games, as well as talk about 3 pieces of Warhammer media that I think you should probably check out if you're a fan of it at all, and they come from different backgrounds, so I think it'll be interesting. First off, let's do that Warhammer media part, because that's a lot easier to cover.
I like your hat, by the way.
First up is the Astartes fan film. If you haven't seen Astartes, like, come on, what are you doing? I'm sure you have, because it's got millions of views, but for that, like, one person down there in the comment section is like, oh, I hadn't seen Astartes. It's like, good, watch it.
That's literally me. I didn't see Astartes. What the fuck is that?
Amazing. It's a 5 part little series made by, I think, pretty much one guy. Maybe he has some friends, but I think it's only the one guy. And he made a little fan film about some Space Marines going and securing some kind of cargo from either some kind of PMC or heretic cultists. I'm thinking it's a PMC. They didn't look fucked up enough. It's not just a simple, like, Marines punching elves or punching orcs. That's got a little bit more intrigue to it, and it's a lot more subtle, which I like a lot. It also does a great job at adapting the lore. For a large majority of it, at least in a large majority of games, Space Marines kind of just like walk into battle, doing like a Chad stride, thinking they're so fucking hot shit. When in reality, if you think about a legitimate war zone or something, the Space Marines, while they do look cool walking in, which they do sometimes, they're a lot faster. They run incredibly quickly. They're constantly spoken that nothing that big should run that quick, and they're very tactical. They take positions, they have orders, they have not just bolt guns and giant thunder hammers and stuff. There is the good old Astartes combat knife. And it's nice to see all that stuff represented in a much more, I say realistic, it's Warhammer, but a realistic way. Pretty much all of these things will be in the description, so you know, but definitely worth checking out. It's not too long. Go look at it.
Okay, I think I just might check that out. That looked fucking amazing.
Secondly,
what
we
the
actually
hell?
have a Warhammer film. Now, Warhammer movies, there are a couple of them, and unfortunately, they pretty much all suck. Any of the ones that you might think, oh, it was okay, it's not. It's probably just we have none of them, so the fact that we have anything that has like a little bit of effort put into it, you're like, oh, it's all right, when in reality, it's pretty terrible. It's like really big Resident Evil fans that like the Resident Evil movies. Like, they're not good movies, but they could...
Those Resident Evil movies fucking suck, and you can only enjoy them if you accept that fact, and you can't change my mind.
Can be dumb fun sometimes, I get it. However, the
Yep,
best
exactly.
Warhammer film is not even a Warhammer film. Now, there's a film called Event Horizon. It's in 1997 by Paul W.S. Anderson, I believe was the director. Now, speaking of Resident Evil, he directed a lot of the Resident Evil films, as well as, I think, Alien vs. Predator and a few other things. I don't particularly consider him a fantastic director. I think most of his movies are kind of mediocre. That being said, Event Horizon scratches that perfect Warhammer deep space sci-fi horror itch. If you want to take Dead Space, Alien, and a bit of Warhammer and mash it together, you have Event Horizon. And the whole purpose of the story is it's far future, and there was a ship of the name of the movie, and that ship was in the orbit of Neptune and it just disappeared. And then, like 4 years later, it's back. No one knows why. So you're gonna go investigate it. And it is exactly that. It apparently was a big inspiration for the first Dead Space game, and it makes a lot of sense when you do watch the film, but it's very creepy.
Oh, damn, I haven't really... I might have heard something about this movie because Event Horizon does sound familiar, but it's also a popular name used by many media to describe actual something, because it's also kind of a description of a thing. Isn't it fucking insane that I know a lot of movies by that director? Like, I watched a couple of the Resident Evil ones. I know that his Monster Hunter movie fucking sucks. And like, a lot of people know the Resident Evil movies and the Monster Hunter movie, but when he actually made something good, nobody actually talks about it. What the fuck? That movie sounds baller.
It's got that awesome part where, you know, not only is there a danger, but you also the danger of space and all the issues that space comes with. It's not perfect. There are some character motivations or character actions in the first third that I really don't like, and the effects don't always hold up, but for a Warhammer film, it is the best non-intentional Warhammer movie you're probably gonna get for many years. And last but not least, we have the Emperor Text-to-Speech series on YouTube. Now, a lot of people asked me when I made my video a bit ago about Warhammer YouTubers why I didn't mention him, mainly because I wanted to save it for this video. The Text-to-Speech series is a very cute concept. It is just a little Warhammer YouTube episode series where the Emperor gets a text-to-speech device implemented into his body, and now he can speak to the Captain General Custodian, nicknamed Kitten, because it turns out all the custodians have turned into a gay orgy because they've been stuck there for so long, which, because of that, provides the rarest thing since fucking Bigfoot: an actually good JoJo meme.
Yo. Okay, this is where that comes from. Okay, got it.
Holy shit. What in the name of terror on fucking roller skates is this?
God bless him, he's done the impossible. It's very cute watching this series because it provides a lot of things. It's obvious.
This looks really unique. I really need to do follow-up videos on some of this because this is some real fucking unique stuff.
Obviously a comedy, and it's meant to be, but it's a comedy from someone who actually understands Warhammer lore, and in a sense, it's definitely not something you should take as gospel, but it does have this like over-the-top style for most of the characters. For instance, in this series, you have a whole bunch of Mechanicus guys, and they fuck toasters. Do they actually fuck toasters in the lore? No, but they are crazed techno people. They're insane. Vulcan is a super nice guy who runs around hugging people. Does he do that in the lore? No. But the Salamanders are known to be a much nicer and caring chapter compared to most Space Marines. Magnus is a Yu-Gi-Oh! Loving nerd. Is he actually? No, he's just a fucking nerd. It's wonderful, it is very funny, and I would highly recommend it. And you do maybe need to slog through the first couple of episodes because they are a bit older and lower budget, but as time goes on, they get really good, especially after episode like 10-ish. And they're pretty short in the beginning. They get longer later on, so highly recommend. Give it a watch, it's very funny. And with that being said, let's move on to some Warhammer video games.
Who are you speaking to, Father?
Damn it, Krogo. Shall close that cavern in your skull before it vomits forth more agglomerations of vexing questions.
My skull yields no hollow rock formation, Father.
Starting us off at number 5 for Warhammer video games, we have Space Hulk Deathwing. Now, Space Hulk Deathwing is a fine kind of Left 4 Dead style game. You play as 4 separate Terminators, and
Yo. Okay, he's cooking, let him cook. I hear the word Left 4 Dead, I'm immediately interested.
that's what, Deathwing is. I believe it's Dark Angels chapter, if I'm not particularly mistaken. But you start as Terminators, and you are exploring a Space Hulk. And a Space Hulk is basically a big old derelict ship that's gone dark for God knows what reasons. Demons, Tyranids, who knows. So you kind of go through your little Left 4 Dead style thing, you kill a whole bunch of Tyranids utilizing a whole bunch of weapons, and that's kind of your game. Personally, I don't think Space Hulk is a particularly amazing game. I think it's good for a good 10 to 15 hours of fun, and then it gets a little bit repetitive and you kind of get tired of it. But visually, it's very well done. The look of the plasma and your power swords and your flamers and the way the Tyranids attack you and all, it looks very good.
But show
I like
some
the
gameplay
very
though.
Warhammer style aesthetic.
Why
and
no
the music,
gameplay?
and they nail that pretty well. I do think it's a solid time for a short time, but I wouldn't buy it at any kind of full price. I'd get it if you could find it on sale for maybe $5 and grab a few Warhammer friends. I'd argue that it's at least worth a little bit of your time. I don't think it's particularly amazing, but like I said before, Warhammer games are not particularly amazing as a whole. So I'm kind of breezing through this one just because it's not a fantastic title, but it's worth at least trying, at least checking out a little bit. And number
Okay, I get it. This is literally the section. He talked about it for a minute and a half. Like Bricky said, he breezed through it. So he probably shown the coolest part of the presentation, which is that cutscene. I'm assuming that's some intro cutscene you see at the beginning, because in many games you usually get that amazing high quality cutscene representing the product at the beginning, and it's usually much higher budget than anything inside the game because it's just a short little cutscene. But it should be a crime to recommend somebody a video game of any kind and never show its actual gameplay. I just need a couple of frames. Just give me 15 seconds of raw gameplay so I can at least visualize how everything looks. That's it. I just need a couple seconds. And there definitely was time to put in some actual gameplay in there, so that's a little bit of my personal critique for of this Bricky video, but it's kinda stupid to criticize this video because it's so old. It obviously doesn't represent like Bricky's repertoire and how he usually makes his videos. So it's less of a critique of this and more to any aspiring YouTubers out there, if any are like in the audience right now, I guess. If you talk about a video game, you need to show its gameplay. Like, that should be real simple, cut and dry. If somebody starts a video game, he's obviously interested in the gameplay. Like, you cannot have a video game without any kind of gameplay. Like, even a bunch of visual novels or very story-heavy games have, you know, gameplay sections that you actually play. And if your game doesn't have that, it's probably not a great video game and it would be a better movie or something like that. So, but yeah. Gameplay is important for games. I know, shocker, and gamers care about gameplay. Crazy.
4, we have Warhammer Space Marine. Now, Space Marine is a very fun game that I think people think a little bit too highly of. It's enjoyable and a little more streamlined. So if you're just a kind of a regular casual gamer,
this one Mandalore explained really in depth in a separate video that dropped couple days ago on my channel when you're watching this. So yeah, probably not gonna have a lot to say. I'm just gonna let Bricky say his piece.
You want to play a fun game and you don't even care it's in the Warhammer universe, you probably still enjoy this. It's a third-person shooter combined with a kind of beat-em-up hack and slash, I guess it's more of a beat-em-up kind of style game where you go around blasting a whole bunch of orcs that have invaded some kind of Imperial planet, and you also smack them in the face with power swords and stuff. And it's pretty damn satisfying at times. The gameplay loop is by far the best part of this game.
See that wasn't so hard. Like 40 seconds of cutscene to show off the presentation, and then it transitions into the gameplay. That could have easily happened like back here. I don't know if maybe Bricky just didn't want to capture some footage for like a literal 40-second segment. That I can understand from a content creator perspective, because I also get fucking lazy with some of my stuff, so...
It does not ever get old to run up and plasma pistol 3 orcs in the face and then just start beating the ass crap out of them with a whole bunch of Space Marine weapons. It is super fun, it's satisfying, and all of the sound effects really give you that nice, like, crunchy, hardcore Warhammer feel. At this point, you might as well just kind of have your streamlined action game because it works out better with the lore. What's the job? Kill the alien. Cool.
Yeah.
The orcs definitely steal the show, I'd say. There's a little bit of chaos in there as well, but the orcs are by far more fun. They have that stupid, like, over-the-top Cockney accent with a whole bunch of the green skins that it's always funny. The orc war boss in particular is actually, I think, a very, very fun character. I like him quite a bit. And overall, the game looks very good. I like the Gothic tech factories that they do. It's kind of hard to pull off, and they did a pretty good job. I think my only downside is that it does have a lot of the early 2000s syndrome when it comes to video games. And by that, I mean extremely railroading linear areas and tons of QuickTime events. Tons. And if you've played the game, you know there are some really egregious QuickTime events in certain very important parts of the game that shall remain nameless.
Okay, Mandalore like spoiled that upon me, so I'm just gonna say the final boss is a QuickTime event, and that sucks.
Overall, I think people put it a little bit too high on a pedestal. It's a very digestible game. It's good for a large amount of audiences, but it's not amazing. It's not wonderful. But it's kind of like, hey, this is what we're gonna get, and we're getting a pretty okay product. I'll take solid and streamlined over bad and faithful. For number 3, we have...
Yeah, like Bricky said, I'm just gonna say real quick. Basically, Mandalore hit all of those points that Bricky said, because Mandalore's, you know, review was a whole ass single video review instead of reviewing like different games. And I think like everything that Bricky has said checks out with what Mandalore said. That game looks just like kinda solid, some mindless fun, like no real backstory other than, you know, go here, kill the alien. But yeah, it's definitely a very focused is the right word, focused product that doesn't try to be anything it's not. It's just a Space Marine power fantasy. You hit things with your giant ass melee weapons and you shoot things. So yeah, that looked good. Honestly, I would play it, but it's very low on my list because I kinda want some story. Like the environments I can see in Bricky's and Mandalore's videos. Yeah, like just, I think I'm good. I would rather play some other Warhammer games that have like that gameplay more suited to me. Like I said, I just heard the words Left 4 Dead and Space Hulk Deathwing is immediately on my to play list. Or something that has like a really strong story that will get me more into this universe. But Space Marine, I might like come back around for it after I'm done with those other recommendations by Mandalore and by Bricky. When and if I get to them. Probably when, because I'm already kind of set on this.
Battlefleet Gothic 1 and 2. Now, a lot of these games I haven't played a ton of, I'll be totally honest, because this kind of gameplay style isn't entirely my cup of tea. That being said, I am getting a lot of this recommendation via osmosis and asking various other Warhammer fans what they thought of the games. Personally, 2 sticks out the most because it opens with one of the biggest events in Warhammer history, which is the Fall of Cadia. Naturally, as a big Guard player myself, the Fall of Cadia is probably my favorite event in the Warhammer history. It kind of has like the Avengers Endgame feel to it, where, you know, if you go watch Endgame, we can probably all agree that Endgame isn't quite as good as Infinity War, but everyone's here. It's a big collaboration, and because of that, it feels very exciting and fun. Even if it's not perfectly well told, it's still very enjoyable. That's basically what the Fall of Cadia is. It has everything. You've got St. Celestine, Belisarius Cawl.
I was about to say, Bricky mentioned like immediately it's like some kind of space simulator where you fly battleships or whatever. Like I said, I need to see gameplay before I tell. No, I see space, flying ships, lasers. So it's probably not a game for me. But unlike Space Marine, like I hear about that and I'm immediately kinda interested. Even though it's not a game type that I would necessarily like, I am more inclined to check this out rather than Space Marine now.
Lord Castellan Creed, as well as a whole bunch of other major characters like Abaddon the Despoiler, Tor Garadon, the Imperial Fists, and let's not forget the resurrection of Rowboat Gurlaman with the help of Yvraine, and a mysterious man known as Trazyn the Infinite, which almost saved Cadia, which is a huge turn of events. Everyone was there, and it's a very exciting story, even if it's not always the best written. But it opens with that, and the cinematics for it are really good. The music, the narrator just is fantastic.
And for every one of those 10,000 years, the fortress world of Cadia has held the gate closed. An adamantium bastion, granted strength by flesh and bone.
Oh, chills, man. Chills. And I wouldn't want to rob this game of the opportunity to turn me around. Because if there is, like, I wouldn't want to just go on YouTube, Battlefleet Gothic, all cinematics. Like, if the developers of this game did this, I want to give their game a fair shot, because it may be a gateway to like a new game type I like, you know. So yeah, I wouldn't want to rob them of this chance. I really need to put this like title down on my list.
And seeded purpose by faith in the Emperor's holy light.
It's hilarious to hear her name off the warship vessel of the orcs, the Mordaka Prime, with just a completely straight face.
survivors from the rechristened Mordaka Prime.
Overall, I'd say the story, especially the voice acting, is really good. In fact, that's a major point we'll talk about later is voice acting, because my final 2 games are also really good on that as well. However, this game is not about your average Warhammer stuff. It's not about little dudes on battlefield. This is a naval fleet battle.
The presentation really reminds me of StarCraft campaigns, where in-engine cutscenes are in the background and you have this text box at the top and a character portrait, and Bricky mentioned really good voice acting. Really reminds me of that anyway.
Which I would say does go a little bit underappreciated. The naval battles of the 41st millennium are very important, and they have these giant Gothic spire ships for the Imperium. You've got the creepy Necron stuff.
Those in-game models look amazing, by the way.
War vehicles.
Holy.
It's very interesting to see this thing kind of fleshed out more. The gameplay, however, is much more of a tactical, slow-paced things about rotations.
Oh my fucking god, that Necron ship looks cool as hell. I'm assuming that's Necron because, you know, the glowing monster energy and the fucking pyramid on top of it.
And shields and all that kind of attack formations and
I
things
think
like
I
that
can
that I'm
accurately
not
guess
overly
those
interested
are
in.
Necrons.
However, the music, the voice acting,
That's
and also
probably
the
Imperium of
large
Man,
swath of
because
people you can play as between
basically flying cathedrals.
the Necrons and the Imperium and the Eldar and such, does really make it a good recommendation, I'd argue. And everyone tells me it's also a wonderful game, so I wanted to go ahead and mention it because there aren't many great Warhammer games, and I do feel like this one in particular does deserve a recommendation.
A little bit kinda related question. Is it easy to tell apart like the different Imperium of Man like warships in the tabletop or in the universe or whatever? Because like obviously you see a floating cathedral, you know that's Imperium of Man, right? But do different factions have like a really different style of ships? Because I could tell that's Imperium of Man, but I can't really tell if that's like a Space Marine Legion, if that's are those the Mechanicus boys, the Inquisitors, you know, is that a collaboration between them? I don't really know how that works, I guess. But I'm assuming I shouldn't fucking assume anything. Somebody will just correct me or answer the question. Because honestly, you guys been amazing with answering my questions about this universe's like details. So yeah, I will just leave it up to the experts or Google it in my own time. And now we have some kind of a strategy game, which I'm interested, I'm listening.
Moving on over, for number 2, we have the Dawn of War games. Now, I decided to combine the 2 of them into one slot because they're both the same group, and honestly, they're both kind of the same game, with some adjustments. Dawn of War is an RTS-style game, and it probably is the game genre that fits the Warhammer universe the best. It's a lot easier to balance out the insanity of all the different kinds of units when you have something like an RTS that allows you to do that, as opposed to, say, a first-person shooter or something. Now, Dawn of War...
That's a great point. And that's definitely true.
One is showing its age a little bit right now, but so are a lot of these games. And it's a more traditional...
I fucking love that run animation of the orc. They're just fucking running forward and wildly shooting at anything that moves. That's great. And the Marines look much more focused and like, you know, like actually trained up army instead of madmen who just are happy they're shooting at something. That's so great. Just that little detail of those animations, man.
RTS. You start off with commands and you have workers and you create all these different kinds of structures that provide to you resources, and that allows you to build units, go capture stuff, kill the enemy. Pretty standard RTS fare. It also boasts a pretty huge selection of armies, everything from the guard.
Yo. Okay, that's a lot. That's impressive. Do they all have like different units and buildings? That's a fucking lot of army. That's a lot of races for an RTS. Holy. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There has to be There has to be some like mechanical overlap between them. Maybe like Dark Eldar and Eldar, or Chaos and... I don't know if Chaos has Chaos Space Marines, I'm assuming they do. Maybe they have some like reskins with maybe like a different ability. Because there is no way there can be like 9 really different races in your RTS game. That's too much, man.
Guard to the Necron.
And I'm not saying too much for the player, because the players will eat that shit up with their bare hands. They will rub their belly like really full. Their entire face will be covered from eating so much, and they will still ask for seconds. I'm saying strictly from like the developer side of things. That's a lot to work that's a lot of work to do.
To the orcs, and then you have the sisters, and there's a nice combination. For Dawn of War 2, however, it's still an RTS, but it's a lot more of a squad-based tactics game. There's no base building of any kind, and instead you control a major hero that can be revived, and you start building out different kinds of units and tech trees as you unlock more and more by capturing requisition points and trying to win in like a hold the objective style game.
Swag Stancom. What is he? If he was playing orcs, I would say that's a great name. That's fucking funny. I'm assuming this is some like multiplayer skirmish or something. Very interesting gameplay from what it sounds. I don't really have anything to compare it to. Can't even really compare it to Company of Heroes, because in Company of Heroes you actually build buildings still, even if they don't play that much of a massive role. But you build buildings for like those upgrades for your squads, so it's very interesting.
Which I think does translate well now that we're in 9th edition Warhammer, and objective control is the major point of that game as well. Dawn of War 2 still looks incredible. It's like, it looks beautiful. I love the animations, I love the color scheme. It's got a little more bloom, but I don't know, I don't really mind that. And it's really nice to see all the different sound effects. And
yeah, it does look pretty good. I wonder what year it came out of. Like, if this is pre-2010s, no way, this is pre-2010s. It looks way too fucking good.
And the voice acting of Dawn of War 1 and 2 is so stupidly over the top. It's so bombastically ridiculous that I cannot imagine it being anything else. If it was in any other game, it wouldn't work. But when you've got voice acting like this, it's fantastic.
Orcs. And where there's one, there's 100 of them.
2009? No fucking way! That looks fucking amazing for a 2009 game. Holy shit.
Come,
who the fuck developed this?
among your misbegotten kind.
Witness your doom!
Do the deaths of your soldiers mean so little to you? Are you that mad?
Do
Oh,
the deaths of yours mean so much to you, alien? Are you that weak?
Our task here is too important to let one such as you derail it.
that's good voice acting. That's some good voice acting.
Did you say something, Eldar? I couldn't hear for all that hot air you's blowing.
Your infantilism is boundless, Orc.
And she still won't shut.
Why are the orcs of Warhammer 40k this dangerously based? Oh my god, I love them so much. They're such creatures, such miscreants.
You have made quite a name for yourself looting the petty lords of this subsector. You have also been known as a mercenary under their employ.
I? What's that to you? Why, you're catching your boys here. You're one of those inquisitive type thingies. I thought yous were more for killing orcs than paying them. I like your hat, by the way.
And I really do think it's one of the biggest highlights of it, because it really puts you in that universe, and you combine the really good music.
I really wanna say, if I played the tabletop, I would play Adeptus Mechanicus, because I love their concept, their imaginary, everything about them. But the orcs seem so fun, man. Holy shit.
Music, it's wonderful. They both also have a wonderful modding scene as well. Dawn of War 1 has the Ultimate Apocalypse mod, which is basically like, hey, okay, in the game you had the Baneblade, now you've got 14 Baneblades. You've got the Hellhammer, the Shadow Sword, etc. Now you can have Emperor Titans and Imperial Knights. You can now build Death Strike nuclear missiles, and the Tyranids are in there. Here's your Hierophant Bio Titan. Here's your Orc Stompa. You can just build this insane amount of units, and it's way more fleshed out in the actual lore, so you can grab basically anything you want. Whereas there's also a mod for Dawn of War 2 called, I believe, the Elite mod that I found out because I was watching a guy named Indrid Casts. He cast Dawn of War 2 like pro matches, which I think is really interesting because you have these like 3v3 battles with all these different factions, and some factions that I don't believe were actually in the game originally either, and they're a lot more fleshed out. They had a lot more intrigue and interest, and it really is nice to watch, actually. It's surprisingly deep for a game like that, with the cover system and how you move characters and their special abilities. It's impressive. In fact, Dawn of War 1 actually has...
It's always fucking crazy how a couple of like teenage modders usually can bring content into the game that the original developers could not dream of. Like some mods are just of a scope of entirely new video games, and that's crazy. It's cool to hear that the modding community is active. Always like a great... It's always good for a game's longevity.
It has a pretty fantastic campaign. In fact, almost all the expansion packs have fantastic campaigns, besides one of them. Dawn of War 2 has some decent campaign moments, but Dawn of War 1 is really the good shit, alright? It has some really good characters, it has some really nice campaign moments, and it is by far worth playing. If you're curious about either of these games, I would recommend watching the Dawn of War 1 Ultimate Apocalypse review by Mandalore Gaming, or checking out Indrid Casts for those Dawn of War 2 games as well. See which one's more your style. I think I like the look and the feel of Dawn of War 2 better, but I do enjoy the gameplay, like the more traditional RTS of Dawn of War 1, so I'm a little bit back and forth. But both games...
I'm definitely giving both of those games a try. That sounds like right up my alley. And the campaign is good? Fuck it, I'm sold, man. I was sold the moment the orc said, I like your hat.
Games are pretty much the epitome of Warhammer content to cover multiple factions, lots of different units, and get the most inclusive Warhammer game in terms of all the variety as you possibly can. Finally, last but not least, we have Warhammer Mechanicus. I would argue Mechanicus is the best Warhammer game currently on the market right now. It is number...
I also saw a review of Mandalore of Mechanicus. So.
Number one. The only reason you might consider Dawn of War better is because it has more of the things you might want. Mechanicus is much more streamlined. You play as the Adeptus Mechanicus, and you are an Archmagos. I don't know how it's pronounced. Magos, and you have stumbled upon a Necron tomb world, and your job, go look at it, purify it, exterminate it, do whatever you can, and finish off the Necrons before they all wake up, and you gotta get the hell out of there. If I were to tell you a bullet point list of what makes it great, I can imagine all of you thinking to yourself, oh shit, why haven't I played this yet? Well, first off, it's an XCOM style game. So you have top-down view moving your different units certain spaces, and they have special hits. However, unlike XCOM, no random chance. If you can shoot it, you're gonna hit it. It's a Darkest Dungeon style game where each encounter is moving through a little bit like section of the tomb world that has different special things that you have, like symbols and random encounters and the random chance kind of stuff that some people hate, but it doesn't really bug me that much. Some are good, some are bad. You build a party up, you've got a class-based system to upgrade your...
I'm considering skipping some of this because like Mandalore literally covered all of it. Nah, I'm just gonna let Bricky talk. I just don't have much to say, so sorry if I'm not reacting hard enough, but like I literally straight up know all of this already probably.
Tech priests, you can bring different other kinds of minions like servitors, cataphrons, or maybe Skitarii vanguards and rangers. You've got all these different kinds of upgrades and new weapons you can unlock, and by working through the different people of your cohort, you can talk to one of the characters that's really big on saving her troops. You've got one guy who's the religious aspect of the Mechanicus, who constantly like speaks sermons and crap, and then you have the really techno diddly boy who's, or is that a girl? They all represent a different part of the Mechanicus, and it's just really impressive. And the sound design, and the visuals, and the music. Oh my god, the music.
I did listen to a couple of pieces of music from this because I had a really long moment in one of my videos where I was talking and I was like, this sounds very boring, I will put some music into the background, and I looked through Mechanicus OST to pick a song from there, and holy shit, that OST rocks, man. Oh my god, it's so good.
And even the Necrons are so well fleshed out. The Necrons are Necrons. They have reanimation protocols. They have scarabs that help heal people. They have Gauss and Tesla weaponry. Everything from your teeny little canoptic scarab to your Triarch Praetorian and a Destroyer Lord. There are some scary stuff in that goddamn tomb. And the Necrons do not fuck around. And in fact, in a weird way, it actually provides one of my favorite parts of the game, which is the voice acting.
Mandalorian mentioned this aspect too, and it's really cool. It's a really cool way to do voice acting on a budget in a game like this. This wouldn't work for all game times, but for this, it's fucking perfect.
Now, for your main cohort, you don't have voice acting. You have, like, I feel bad calling it gibberish because it's obviously way cooler than gibberish, but it's some kind of, like, I don't know, low gothic binary speaking or something. But that gives it not only saves.
It's just Sims voices. It's literally Sims voices, but in that techno cultist flavor, and it's fucking cool.
Voice acting, but it has its own really nice flavor to it. But then soon you realize that the Necrons actually do have voice acting. The major Necron characters speak English.
What virtue do your kind have that makes you deserving of anything but extinction?
And that got me thinking a little bit, like, the Mechanicus believe that flesh is weak, and they strip themselves of it the best they possibly can in order to, you know, transcend, to remove their weakness and everything from their actual flesh to even their mind. The Necrons were dragged into biotransference against their will and became robotic slaves. And they're the ones that speak English. in an odd turn of fate, the Mechanicus, because they don't speak English, are more alien than the Necrons are. Which I just think is so fucking cool. If I had to have any downsides to Mechanicus, it's that the opening is a bit too hard, and the ending is a bit too easy. The opening can be pretty brutal, and then as you get going, it becomes a little bit too easy and you start to steamroll.
Man, that's so fucking true for a lot of, like, games of that type. I wanna say, Mandalore really wanted to avoid this comparison, but obviously it's a little bit like XCOM. And XCOM is so much this. XCOM is like really fucking brutal at the beginning, and then there is no opposition. You just show up and everybody might as well die at the beginning of a mission. It's so hard to find the perfect balance for a game of this type where it's on the shoulders of the player to, like, develop tech throughout the campaign, because you cannot make the game too hard, because if somebody by accident develops tech that isn't like the best in the game, you don't want to punish them because they fucked up. They didn't know, like they couldn't know. They are playing the game for the first time, for God's sake. But if they stumble into that like really efficient setup, the game just folds.
Honestly, it's an incredibly good game. It's the best Warhammer game on the market, both in terms of polish, being very faithful to the lore, and having great intrigue and design. Everyone should play it. Even if you don't care about Ad Mech and Necrons, everyone should play it. I love it. Go check it out. Okay, and that's it for me. This has been 5 Warhammer games that I think you should really check out. This has been also some media. Definitely watch Event Horizon and Astartes if you haven't already. Those are such good little pieces of work. And text-to-speech is a little more of a commitment, but god damn it, it's worth it for the memes alone. All the games, you know, they're really hit or miss. I think some of you will definitely disagree with me on a couple decisions. I know a lot of people really like that Space Marine game, but honestly, regardless, there aren't a whole lot of great Warhammer.
Like, that Space Marine game is cool. It's a power fantasy game, but man, do the Dawn of War and Mechanicus and Battlefleet Gothic sound just better because there's more of the things from the setting. Like, Space Marine is just, you know, you shoot things, and it's cool to be a Space Marine. They, you know, they fucking rock. Yeah, the music was also really good in that one. The music was goddamn. But the story is just, and the presentation also was really good. I think it still looks great, and it's also like from before 2010, which it doesn't look like it. It aged really good.
Hammer games out there, and I think this is really the best options in the top 5 that you can really check out. If anything, definitely look into Dawn of War and Mechanicus. They're probably the epitome. Just don't go into Dawn of War 3. We don't talk about that one. Thank you to all of my patrons and everyone who are going on the screen. I'm actually gonna be changing up my.
Is Dawn of War 3 really bad? Is it bad because gameplay is bad? Is the campaign bad? What happened?
Patreon a little bit to kind of streamline the process a little bit. I think it's a little bit too complicated at the current moment, but I'd like to kind of calm it down, make it a little bit easier, and make it just not so, I don't know, cluttered. I'm also going to be doing memberships on YouTube soon. That's more of like if you feel like it, kind of like the Patreon thing. You'll have your name up here as well, but it's more if you want to be part of some premieres that we might start doing, as well as other things like having emotes and stuff in the chat below. It's really just like a if you feel like it kind of deal. So thank you so much for watching. My name has been Bricky, and I will be seeing you hopefully soon for a Legends of Runeterra review that's taking me quite a while. All right, bye-bye.
I can assure you, viewer, right now, that you will definitely hear more about Dawn of War from me. At least Dawn of War. Dawn of War is the most interesting to me. Battlefield Gothic, well, Mechanicus is the most interesting to me, but Mechanicus, like Bricky said, it has less of the setting just because it's very focused game, kinda like Space Marine, you know? It shows off the Necrons, it shows off the Adeptus Mechanicus, it's very focused, so, you know, it obviously comes with a slice of that setting, and the Dawn of War games can really go all out because they're real-time strategies. But I will definitely go through some of those games, and I really want to make a video of me, maybe, you know, reacting first-time thoughts, or maybe like a review. I already have ideas, so you can expect some of that in the future. I'm already putting together a video, so I have this really cool, in my opinion, but I have this idea where I will grab a couple of games that Touch reviewed and I reacted to them, that I never played before, and I would even consider only because I watched his reviews, like Kenshi, for example, and play them and review them and like bundle it into like a video called something like reviewing every game that Sintaj convinced me to buy, something like that. And I think I will do something similar for Bricky with those games. Maybe possible, like, you know, highly edited, kinda like this, you know, with actual editing, not just me sitting in front of the camera. With actual editing, some skits and whatnot, so something that will take more time to actually make. And maybe like stream it right here and upload VODs to like a second channel. I already have a second channel where I played the Eternity of Layers of Fear. It was very kind of a middling game, so it's not that good. But maybe upload that to the second channel for people interested. You know, I definitely want to expand from reactions. I'm playing around with ideas in my head. But I think like some of you guys really into Warhammer would appreciate a reaction of a complete noob to some of that media. So yeah, definitely playing around with ideas. I will fill that out. I will, you know, release those things first, see how popular they are, like between you, you know. Obviously, if they don't generate views, then I might as well drop that idea and focus on what works, because I am here to kinda respond to your guys' demand. Like this video, there was a huge uptake in Warhammer 40k videos on my channel, so that's why I'm doing more Bricky stuff, for example, because obviously I wouldn't do anything against myself, so this is also something I'm interested in, but yeah, I am also addressing like the demand, so. And yeah, that's everything for today. Thank you very much for watching and stay safe out there, friends. Remember, chaos is watching you sleep.